What does it do, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Scotty Says. I am your host, and welcome to episode 137, my folks. And, well, in recognition of the fact that last week's episode, 136, was an epic, due to the fact that, well, the captain ran aground in Carolina, got too close to the rocks, Captain. And in appreciation of the fact that the captain course corrected against the Cardinals and got the ship steered in the right direction now, well, in honor of both those things, I'm going to give you this week's episode with brevity and alacrity. I mean, we're just going to sequence the first and second drives of the opening quarter of the Cardinals-Rams game and hand out a few game balls, and we'll take a look around the league and wrap this thing up and get ready for what's coming up, the showdown at the Palace next week against, put 'em up, the Lions, the kneecap biter, and them. So, before we get to all that, I just wanna say that as a young lad growing up in the Midwest, St. Louis, in fact, my first NFL franchise allegiance was to the Cardinals. Yes, back in those days, it was the St. Louis baseball Cardinals, still there, and the St. Louis football Cardinals, now in Arizona. And, well, it was a tough blow when they left, although the football Cardinals were never any good. They were always pretty much lousy. You know, they would come close. They had exciting players, and they would push them damn Cowboys and other teams. They'd push them the slurs. They'd push them right to the edge. But in the end, well, my Cardinals would always succumb to defeat, usually due to some foolery, some crazy bounce or tip or something, fumble. And so, when the Cardinals left, packed up, moved to Arizona, well, for a while I wandered in the football wilderness, so to speak. I mean, I didn't really have an allegiance, and then, well, what do you know, I moved to L.A., of course, and the team that was in Anaheim moved to St. Louis, and the Rams became the St. Louis Rams, and the St. Louis Rams became the greatest show on turf. Yeah, this legendary, historic offense, it was a 3-year magical window, and it really came sort of out of nowhere in 1999, party like it's 1999, and I mean, all of a sudden, it was just like the stars aligned, and Marshall Faulk was there, and Kurt Groceries Warner was there, and he was only there because Harrison did some skullduggery to Trent Green, and Kurt Warner replaced him, and the rest, as they say, is history. And, you know, Reverend Ike and Torrey Holden, all of the fellas from The Greatest Show. Well, I mentioned The Greatest Show because right now, LA Rams are in they're in an historic window. Why, in fact, did you know that the LA Rams now, with the victory over the Cardinals, Deadbirds, did you know that the Rams have now won 10 games in 3 consecutive seasons? 10 or more, 3 consecutive seasons, and the last time that the Rams, as a franchise, did that, won 10 or more in 3 consecutive seasons, well, Yeah, you guessed it. The greatest show on turf, the St. Louis Rams. And so we're looking at possibly, it's a historic corollary, perhaps. And we'll see. Time will bear it out. But there are some other coincidences. And we'll talk about that as we move through the episode. But the main thing I want to convey this episode, my folks, is that Captain McWonder, course corrected, got the ship back on track. And he did what you're supposed to do with a team like the Cardinals. You beat the devil out of them. The Cardinals are doing Cardinal things. They do it every year. They've been doing it. The fact that Kurt Warner, after living glory with the greatest show, would end up going to Arizona and taking the Cardinals. Kurt Warner took the Cardinals to the Super Bowl. Damn near had it won for the Cardinals. That alone was enough for me. I was like, this man is special. He needs to be in the Hall of Fame. And he is, of course. And so I say all that to say the Cardinals have a history. They are the epitome of a futile franchise. And the only real through line, the only real connection to those old back in the day grid birds and these dead birds of Arizona, well, the only connection seems to be the Bidwells, the Bidwell family. And so, hey, I don't concern myself with the doings and goings of the Cardinals because they do what they do every year. And now it looks like the diminutive one, Kyler, has probably played his last game. But that's not my concern. The only relevance the Cardinals serve for me these days is serving as roadkill for my Rams. Because I believe, now I have not checked the statistics, AI, Google, Chatter, GPT. I haven't checked any of that, but I would be very confident in saying I'll bet that of all the franchises in the NFL, I'll bet you our very own Captain McWonder has his highest win percentage against the Arizona Cardinals. I'd be willing to bet he owns them. He owns them. And, to be perfectly honest, there's probably a lot of coaches who could say their best win percentage comes against the Arizona Cardinals. But if you're in the division with them, McWonder has handled them the way you're supposed to handle tricks. You whoop them. And he whooped them good. And yet, in that opening drive, in that first drive, I felt the old pang, the old twinge of concern when I saw that pattern reemerge, the idiosyncrasy that I've talked about so often in the past, the proclivities, they showed themselves yet again. And so let's go ahead and take a look at that first quarter of the beatdown, the thrashing of the Arizona Cardinals at the hands of the 10-3 number one seed as we speak, LA Rams. So, all right, that first sequence now. First of all, the Rams are at an early deficit, and hey, Jacoby Brissett is throwing darts and dimes, and he's been doing it, not just against the Rams. He's been doing it. So you got to give Jacoby Brissett a lot of credit. But I'm also just starting to wonder, muse, if you will, at the possibility that there might be an issue with the Rams back in. I hope that's not the case, and I hope that they won't be exposed. But Jacoby Brissett ate him up on the back end, and he's not the only one that's done it. And so, we'll see how that plays out. But other than that, the only other thing that I see that really stands to be a hurdle, an impediment for the Rams is the captain. As long as the captain is steering in the right direction, the ship is seaworthy as hell. Okay? So, all right. Jacoby Brissett hits one of his receivers for the touchdown. Rams, early deficit. They get the ball to start their first possession. And, well, let me say this. Shades of Baltimore. You know, I bring up that Baltimore Ravens game a lot from a couple years ago. And because it's emblazoned in my mind, you know. And the thing about it was, if you recall, there were 9 straight runs from McGenius to start that Baltimore first possession. On the road, in Baltimore, 9 straight runs, first and goal at the 3. Pushing Baltimore back. They're moonwalking Shimon on defense. Hee. And I'm loving it. It's like this memory. It's so vivid in my recollection. And, well, it's first and goal at the 3 after 9 straight runs, and I'm beside myself. And I'm ebullient, and I'm like, finish them. And then first and goal at the 3, 9 straight runs. He's throwing. It's incomplete. Okay. Get it together now. Let's get him. Second and goal from the 3. He's throwing again. Oh. It's incomplete. Third and goal from the 3. Certainly now. He's throwing again. 9 straight runs. First and goal at the 3. 3 straight passes. Field goal. Do you see the schism, my folks? This is the crystallized version of the proclivity. This is what I mean when I say the idiosyncrasy. And so here it is now against the Cardinals. Let's bring it to the present. The Cardinals. Roadkill for McWonder most often. And, well, they are the perfect team to run the ball down their throats. They are who we thought they were. So let's look at it. Let's look at it now. Rams get the ball for their opening possession of the game, already down 7-0. They run 6 plays. 6 plays, my folks, and 5 of those 6 are run plays. And I'm like, yes, he's course corrected. The captain is back on track, and the backs are gouging him. K-Will popping, gouging him. Deuces comes in, popping, gouging him. First and goal at the 8. 5 of 6 plays or run plays. 56 yards, I believe it was, on the ground. First and goal at the 8, incomplete. And I'm like, no, less big, McGenius, less big. Let success be your guide. Remember Baltimore. Don't do it, McWonder. Second and goal at the 8. Incomplete. Oh, no, McWonder. McWonder, the captain. The captain he's wigging. He's glitching again. It's the old tendencies showing themselves, bearing their fangs. It's the old idiosyncrasy. Here it is again. The proclivities. Here it is again. Now, third and goal. I'm like, don't do it, McWonder. Please, don't do it. Third and goal from the 8. You know he's throwing incomplete. Field goal. Field goal. 5 of 6 run plays, 56 yards on the ground. First and goal at the 8. Incomplete. Field goal. This is a McSquander. Classic level McSquander. And so I have to report it. You know that I do. And so I'm not going to give you the sanitized version of everything. And I thought then and there, I said, this man still has not grasped the concept. It's something about it that eludes him still. This is early in the game now. So it's 7-3. It's 7-3 Arizona. After the McSquander. All right, so after that classification level McSquander, the Rams defense holds, forces a punt. LA gets the ball back, still trailing 7-3. And so let's take a look at this second drive, the Rams' second possession of the game. And well, on this drive, I want to highlight it. There were 5 plays initially. 5 plays. 2 pass, 3 run. See the balance there? I like it. But this time, Deuces gets the carry on that third run play and gets them to a 1st and goal at the 3. 1st and goal at the 3. And the captain, he seems to have come back to his senses. He's back in his right mind. And on 1st and goal at the 3, on this, the Rams' second possession of the game, McGenius sends in 13 personnel and they line it up and they hand it off, and Deuces does the rest. Touchdown Rams, touchdown Deuces on the ground the way he should have done it the possession before. Touchdown LA, and they take the lead. And now that second drive, 6 plays, 2 passes, 4 runs, a touchdown with ease. See, Captain, how easy it is when you apply yourself and the principle. Okay, all right, finally, let's take a look at the Rams' third drive. And this will be the final sequence of the game that we'll look at. It's the third possession for the Rams of the game, of the first quarter still. And now, at this point, the Rams are leading 10-7. And so on that third possession, 10 plays, 6 passes, 4 runs. See, keep it in that vicinity of balance. And those 4 runs included 2 runs, the final 2 runs of the drive, consecutive runs, 1st and goal and 2nd and goal. 1st and goal, he ran, didn't get in. 2nd and goal, he did it again. He lined back up and he punched him in the mouth and he ran it again, and it's a touchdown. And that's how you do it. That's how you establish yourself. That's the way you do it. 10 plays, 65 yards, 5 minutes and 48 seconds or so. Off the clock, dominion, control. That's power, fundamental football principles. That's what I'm talking about. I hate when I hear the media, the national media types talking about, well, you know, at his heart, McWonder really wants to run. No, he doesn't. That's fallacious. At his heart, McWonder wants to chuck it. The only reason he ran to begin with when he first got to LA was because he had the golfer who was a bit of a bust, everybody believed, and he had Todd Gurley. And it just made perfect sense. And he implemented a scheme that worked brilliantly and turned the Rams from doormats to playoff contenders. And he won Coach of the Year, and deservedly so. But don't confuse that with him being at essence a running coach. No, he's not. But I hope that he watches at least some of these broadcasts and that I continue to cajole him and encourage him, and hopefully the message will sink in sooner rather than later that you need the ground game, coach. You got to run the ball. That's just the way it is. And 13 personnel is a beautiful wrinkle. And I'm glad I think he found it out of necessity, but I'm glad he found it, and I'm glad he's continued to implement it. And so, as you know, at the end of the first quarter, the Rams were up 17-10. By the end of the first half, it was 24-10, and it would go on to be a laugher. 45-17. Dead birds And so you do to the Cardinals what was done to them. It's required. It's mandatory. You don't go in and pussyfoot and dilly-dally with them. You go in and you remember the old guy. You gotta put him in the mouth. That's what you got to do. And that's what the Rams did, and I love to see it. And so now they are back again, sitting atop the seedings of the NFC at 10-3 with only 4 games to go. And you can see, my folks, that we are approaching the promised land. Everything, been a couple of bumps, but nothing of great import. We just hope the captain keeps his wits about him. You know how the captain gets. And so congratulations and kudos are in order. And so on the heels of that thrashing, that beat down, that walloping that the Rams administered to the Deadbirds, let's go ahead and look at the numbers. Let's apply the principle. You know what we got to do. And so when you look at the numbers, well, the final score, of course, is a reflection of the dominance, and the statistical output reflects that same dominance as well. But what I really want to highlight, my folks, is, in several recent games, the Rams have outpaced their opponent in every offensive category of note except one. Except rushing. That is the fly in the soup. That is the flaw that could ultimately doom the Rams. And so I've been warning him, the captain, about it. And so I want to look at that particular category. When you look at the rushing numbers, what the Rams did to Arizona, listen. Arizona rushed for 51 yards. Shout out on the defense. The Rams offense rushed for 249 yards. Damn near outrushed them by 200 yards to Bills. That's how you do it. That's what you do to a dead bird. You kick it on down the road. And so I love to see a dominant rushing differential like that. Every time you see that, you know what happened. You know somebody got their ass whooped. And so total yards, yes, Rams. Passing yards, they slightly outpassed them, but it was the rushing yards. That is where you really saw the dividend. And so I talked about other corollaries between the greatest show team back in, the turn of the century in 99, 2000, through 01. I talked about the parallels between that team and this team. Well, 10 wins or more, 3 straight seasons. Also, in the Super Bowl era, the Rams, the franchise, has only had 2 games with 3 rushing touchdowns and 3 passing touchdowns in the same game. Only twice have they done it. 3 rushing, 3 passing. They did it once in 2001. The greatest show, Kurt Warner. They did it against the Indianapolis Colts. They won that game 42-17 back in 2001. And in that game, they had 3 rushing touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns. Since then, the only other time the Rams as a franchise have accomplished that feat, 3-3 in one game, was against the Deadbirds on Sunday. The Cardinals were the victims of a 45-17 shellacking, a thrashing, and in that game, 3 rushing, 3 passing touchdowns, only the second time they've done it in the Super Bowl era. So congratulations. You see these parallels, and I have another one for you. But having said that, I want to say, if praise is due, I'm happy to give it. If criticism is due, I don't mind giving that either. And so you know now, I'll call McWonder when he's McWonder, but when he's McGenius, I'll call him that. And so I want to give an honorary game ball to head coach Sean McGenius for his third consecutive 10-win season and counting, and hopefully his third trip to the big game, the Super Bowl. All right, so now that honorable mention for the captain, Coach McWonder, that's a perfect segue to game balls. And I've been giving you corollaries, parallels with the greatest show on turf team and this team. And I told you I had another one for you. Here's a third fun fact. Did you know that Kurt Warner is the leader in Rams franchise history for consecutive games throwing 2 or more touchdowns? He has 7. Well, with this game against the Arizona Deadbirds, Matthew Stafford equaled that mark. Matty has now thrown 2 or more touchdowns in 7 consecutive ball games, tying only Kurt Warner from that greatest show on turf team back in the day. Matty and Kurt stand alone. They'll both be in the Hall of Fame, no question about it. And hopefully, this is the prelude to Matty getting another Super Bowl championship under his belt. And so, game ball, Matthew Stafford, game ball, sir. He was 22 of 31 for 281. He threw for 3 more of them things, 3 more touchdowns. He had a passer rating of 131.3. Pretty pristine, pretty sparkling, if you ask me, game ball, Matt Stafford. I want to give a game ball. Deuces, Blake Corum, number 22, the running back for the Rams, 12 carries for Deuces, 128 yards. Ooh, my. 12 for 128, a 10.7. Popping. 10.7 yards per carry average, plus 2 tutties, 2 of them things. He popped off one damn near 50 or 48 yarder at one point. Deuces, game ball. This man has come into his own, game ball, sir. And then, an old reliable, always a candidate, and very often a recipient of a game ball, Puka Nacua had a hell of a game. He was a leading receiver on the day. He caught 7 balls for 167 yards. That's a 23.9 yards per catch average, damn. And he had 2 tutties, 2 of them things. His big catch was 32 yards, and he had, as you know, an impact in so many other ways, including blocking in the run game. Game ball, Puka Nacua. And so I do have a couple honorable mentions. Other than the coach, of course, I want to give an honorable mention on the defensive end. Honorable mention, Cam Curl. Well, Cam Curl, 3 tackles, 3 more assisted tackles, and the sack had him grazing on Arizona turf. Dead birds grazing. And so, honorable mention as well, B. Young. He had 2 tackles, 2 more assisted tackles, and he also had Kobe Brissett grazing, dead bird grazing on Arizona grass. Yeah, man. So, all right. Now, let's go ahead now and do what, of course, you know we must do. Let's apply the principle, my principle, the 25-30 principle. Let's put this game to the principle test. Let's look at it. Well, we're going to start, of course. We're going to start with the victors. We're going to start with the Rams. It's a zero-sum game. L's and dubs. Dubs and L's. McWonder got the dub. So we'll call him McDub for today. So let's look at the numbers now. All right. Passing. We touched on it. Matty, 22 of 31. Just over by one. There were no sacks. The Rams didn't allow any sacks against the Dead Birds. So, well, just over by one. Just barely over. You know, you almost want to forgive him, but I can't give him a green check, of course. But he was close, and I like to see him in the vicinity. That's where you want to be. Now, here's the key, though. Let's look at rushing for the Rams. Rushing. Well, as I mentioned, deuces, 12 carries, 128, woohoo. And then K-Will, 13 carries, 84. K-Will had a good game. 13 for 84, that's a 6.5 yards per pop average. Plus K-Will had a tutty as well. And so, between Jess Corum and K-Will, well, that's 25. Right there. That's 25. Ding, 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 but wait, there's more. Ronnie Rivers got in later in the game when it was well out of reach. He had 8 more carries. So the Rams ran on the day 33 times. 33. Mwah! And that's beautiful. That's a big green check. And so, officially, McWonder hits one and barely misses one. But, very important, his balance differential was in the positive, my folks. He was a +2 on this game. All right, now let's look at the losers. They got the L's on their heads. Let's look at the Dead Birds from Arizona. Jacoby Brissett. Ooh, 25 of 44. 44. Plus, they were sacked 3 times. That's 47. That's way too many. That's a big red. No way. For Gannon, what about rushing? Well, I mean, Brissett ran 4 times running for his life, but Knight had 7 carries. Carter had 3. That's 10 runs, and if you count Brissett even, they had 14 runs if you count it all. 14. They missed both metrics, and Gannon had a negative 34 balance differential. That's Dead Bird territory every time. And so, the principle, my 25-30 principle, is golden once again, yet again, and still undisputed and undefeated. The 25-30 principle is the truth with an F, okay? The truth. All right, so now, let's go ahead and bring this on home. I want to take a quick look around the NFL at this juncture. I mean, 13 games in now. And, well, I mean, I have to say, the Patriots at 11-2, they got the best record, along with the Denver Broncos. I just didn't see them coming. I didn't think they were for real. And honestly, despite that 11-2, which is eye-popping, I still don't really believe in Denver, and maybe it's just I don't like them. Maybe that's why it's so hard for me to buy in, but I see Denver very plausibly as a one and done in the postseason, but we'll see. Maybe they'll continue to fool me. New England, on the other hand, I see the legitimacy of them. They play the right way. They play fundamentally sound, game control, ball control, power, fundamental principles. I like it, and they hit. I like that. And, well, I mean, honestly, you know, the only real question mark you could throw at them is their strength of schedule. It's been a pretty weak schedule. They may have had the weakest schedule in all the NFL. So we'll see what the playoffs look like. But it looks like they're going to at least have one home game, if not more. So we'll see how that goes. But I'll tell you this. the Bills are right behind New England. Well, 2 games back at 9-4. But the Bills have the highest points scored in the entire AFC at 376, more than the Patriots. And another team that I want to give props to, I picked before the season started, as you may recall, I thought Houston would win that division. I told you that. And, well, they went around the bend and up and down the roller coaster, peaks and valleys, but Houston seems to be kind of coming around. And the thing is that defense, they have the best scoring defense in the entire NFL. So that's who has your best offense in the AFC. It's Buffalo. And your best defense in the NFL is Houston. And so I'd be inclined to think Houston's going to figure out a way to outlast Jacksonville, although Jacksonville might get in as a wild card. We'll see. I'm impressed with Justin Herbert, and I haven't had cause to really say that very often, but to see this man running the ball with a broken hand, trying to not fumble, scrambling, making hard-nosed plays, I like it. Hardball gassed him up and got them over there playing hardball. And so you got to figure the Chargers are going to be in the playoff mix. Now, what they do remains to be seen. But maybe the 2 biggest surprises, I told you the beginning of the season that I thought the mystique was gone around KC. And, you know, I didn't think they would miss the playoffs altogether, but I certainly didn't think they'd be back in the Super Bowl, and I told you that. So the speed at which they seem to have fallen off the edge, that is somewhat surprising. There's a strong possibility that they will not see the postseason this year. And then Baltimore is the other one. I thought they'd make it to the Super Bowl. I predicted that at the beginning, before the season started. And after seeing the Steelers beat them, I'm like, they're done. I think they're done. Right now they're 6-7, and the only reason they even have any type of hope is because their division is putrid, and the Steelers are only 7-6, which is kind of where they are usually, somewhere around 500. And so you figure Mike Tomlin won't have a losing season, but at the same time, they never go too far in the postseason either. And I felt at the beginning of the year, in that preview episode, I told you, I felt that Pittsburgh would probably make the playoffs, but I didn't think they'd be good. And I sort of felt, and still do, that Tomlin made a deal with the devil, literally and figuratively, when he decided to cast in his lot with COVID-toe. And so, yeah, maybe they'll make it into the postseason, but they're not going to go very far. And so there you have the AFC. Now, of course, the conference that is close, near, and dear to my heart, the NFC. Well, when you look at the NFC, it's very interesting because the number 1 defense points allowed and the number 1 offense points scored both belong in the NFC West. In fact, it is not the front-running Rams, but it's Seattle. Seattle leads the NFL in points scored, and they are first in the NFC in points allowed. So they are having, statistically anyway, a magnificent season. They're 10-3, just like the Rams. The Rams have beat them, and so the Rams sit on top of the division by that fact. But they play the Rams, as you know, in a couple of weeks here, coming up in Seattle with the 12s. And so that game will be of great importance. But before we get there, we've got to put them up with the Lions. With the Lions here at the Palace on Sunday. Now, the other team to mention in the NFC West, you can't help, you got to do it, it's them damn Niners. Yes, somehow, some way, Father Shanahan, the sorcerer, has them damn Niners at 9-4. I don't know how he's doing it, but he's doing it. There they are. And so you got to, at this point, you've got to face the reality that probably 3 playoff teams will come out the West, which means there's little room for error for these other teams. Let's look around. Before we go any further, I should also point out that despite Seattle being number 1 in the NFC in defense, it's only by 1 point. 1 point over the Rams, who are number 2. Seattle's defense has allowed 226 points. The Rams' defense, the second best defense in the NFC, has allowed 227, just one more. And so you see how very close that is. And likewise, with the offenses, Seattle's offense has scored 387 points. The Rams' offense, 379, just 8 yards difference. So the Rams are right there. So you can see these are the 2 heavyweights in the NFC. All right, now let's move on. When we look at the NFC East, well, the Eagles, they're still clucking and trying to hold on, but they look like they're wheezing and gasping a bit, don't they? I don't have any illusion that the Eagles will repeat. I didn't think they would to begin with. I think it's even less of a probability now, looking at this far into the season. So they're a good team. You're going to have to deal with them. But I don't see them. I don't even think they'll get back to the championship game at this point, but we'll see how that plays out. And shockingly enough, them damn Cowboys, even though they're only 500, 6-1, they do have, actually, I misspoke. They have the second highest yards in the NFC. Seattle has scored 387, them damn Cowboys 381, the Rams 379. So Dallas has put up numbers, but their defense is terrible. Their defense has allowed more than their offense has scored. So you see why they're 6-6. Let's look at the North, the NFC North. Well, right now it's the Packers. They've only got 3 losses, so they're 9-3-1 with that ugly tie. But I don't know, the Pack, of the 3 that are vying for contention, the Pack, the Bears, and the Lions, the Pack has scored the fewest points. They've also allowed the fewest, so there's that. And then finally, well, the NFC South, that's just a putrid stew. The Bucks and the Panthers, interestingly enough, both are 7-6. Who knows how that's going to play out? But I imagine whoever comes out of that division will most likely be a one and done, or we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. And so, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and land the plane. Nose up, Captain! And so, at this point, now, what I'm going to ask from you, what I'm going to ask you to do is throw me one of these. Please like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell. That way you'll be notified when I drop my next video, which you know won't be long because we will be back on the other side of Put 'em Up, the Rams-Lions game. And we will chop up the outcome of that one. And just as a way of a preview of that one, you know, McWonder, for all of his talk of being Mensa football, he's never beaten a kneecap biter. Isn't that interesting? You would think a kneecap biting Neanderthal shouldn't be able to out-coach McGenius, but the kneecap biter keeps getting him. So will McWonder get his revenge this time around? I mean, when I did my preview to start the season, I predicted and projected, I thought that, Put 'em Up, I thought that the damn Lions might just get Make wonder again, but at this point, with 4 games left to play, well, it would be great if the Rams could manage to go 3-1. That would exceed my projection. That would get them to a very respectable 13-4, and I think that would definitely get the NFC West job done. But you gotta figure, you're gonna get the dead birds when you play them the last game of the season. And you're gonna get Atlanta. They're reeling. Rah! And so, the only question of those 2 games, put them up, the Lions, and the rematch with the Hawks. If you can get the 2 you're supposed to get, because they are who we thought they were, and then if you can split, I mean, obviously you'd like to win all 4, but if you can split with either put them up and the Hawks, well, 13-4 should really be all you need to do exactly what you want, which is have that first round bye. So, at this point, my folks, until the next one, which you know won't be long from this one, Scotty says, thank you for watching. One love.